Okay, and good morning to everyone. Welcome to South Dundas Committee of the Whole meeting for Thursday, February 24th of 2022. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and with us today we have in attendance live with me, Deputy Mayor Gardner, Councillor Lewis, and Councillor Mellon, and Councillor Wells is joining us via remote this morning. Confirmation of agenda. Is there anything to add to the agenda this morning? Seeing none, any disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none, the adoption of minutes of the Committee of the Whole, February 2nd of 2022, please.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Gardner, seconded by Councillor Mellon, that the minutes of the Committee of the Whole held on February 2nd, 2022 of the 7th Council of the Municipality of South Dundas be adopted as circulated.
Any discussion on those minutes? Seeing none, all heard the motion. Those in favor? Opposed of any, motion carries. So this morning we have 5 items to roll through. We'll break probably halfway through to give everybody a little bit of a break, but they're fairly straightforward. But usually with those straightforward meetings, they'll end up going a lot longer than anybody ever thought. And so anyway, this we'll start off with the lending library overview and update. Austin, welcome.
Council, pertaining to the lending library, which operates out of the Morrisburg Arena. Currently, the South Dundas Lending Library is home to 58 different types of equipment for patrons to access and use free of charge. Recent years, it has become evident that our peak seasons are summer and winter, as items such as paddleboards, kayaks, and canoes are in high demand during the months of July and August, while items such as snowshoes and cross-country skis are in high demand during January and February. For 2022, staff added items such as mountain bikes to the lending library inventory to support the newly completed waterfront pathways, as well as a volunteer-driven recreation trail on Allison Avenue. In regards to the booking process, patrons will typically contact the municipality and arrange a day and time to pick up the equipment with staff, complete the mandatory waiver, and set a drop-off date and time within 3 to 5 days. This process has been tracked through Excel spreadsheets over the past few years. However, it is planned that the lending library will be included with our newly implemented online booking system in 2022. And if council has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them at this time.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Gardner.
Thanks, Mayor Byvelds. Okay, so I have a couple of questions, if I may.
You go right ahead. This is what it's all about. You got questions, concerns, now it's time to air them, please.
Excellent. Okay, so I see your list, Austin, in the report. There's like the number of item, like the number that that you have for each item. So I see that in the report. I'm just wondering, in your stats, do you track how many times in a year that each item has been borrowed?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, we don't track that specifically, but we do have a fairly good idea how many pieces of equipment on an average go out per weekend during our peak seasons.
So you have a pretty lengthy list. There's a nice assortment, but say you had, I don't know, say you had ropes or something that is not being, like, how do you know if one item is being used a lot and another item is hardly being used?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, it's just what patrons are typically booking. As I mentioned, and during our peak season, it's mainly water sports and winter activities. We do offer those various items, and they do get used maybe once or twice throughout the year. However, during those peak seasons, those main items are the water sports and winter activities.
Okay. The reason why I'm asking, because, you know, when we talk about investment in the inventory, it's just kind of putting the money where it makes the most sense. And we have some items that aren't being used. Like, I was curious, you've got bubbles as part of the lending library. What is that about? Like, why is that actually bottles of, like, is that bubble? Like, can you explain that?
Yeah, absolutely. So through you, Mr. Mayor, we do have just the regular bottles of bubbles. We do use them for our programming camps, whether it be March break camps and so on. And whenever they're done with the camps, any that are left over typically get put in a lending library. And once they expire, then they're tossed.
Okay. So I learned two things. Number one, we lend out bubbles, and two, they expire, which I didn't realize was a thing, but
Just one thing
ahead.
to add, and maybe Austin, you can clarify, with the new booking software, we'll be able to track then the use of each inventory at that time, correct?
Yes.
that's kind of what I was getting at, because if we're going to do an investment or go after a grant or whatever, that data it's very important to have that data, right? So if we have, when I look at things like canoes or kayaks, those are a heavy investment, but if that's one of the things that you cannot get access to because it's so popular,
That's when you need
that's
to
super whatever. On the weekend, when somebody books with this lending library, so you can't book on the weekend, you have to only book during the weekday for the weekend? Is that how it currently works?
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Mayor, currently we only allow bookings between Monday and Friday. Typically, patrons will book a piece of equipment for the weekend, so they'll come and they'll pick it up on a Friday or Thursday afternoon, and then they'll use it for the weekend, bring it back on Monday. And that's specifically just because the staff handling the bookings are our recreation coordinator and myself, and as we work Monday to Friday, that's when we ask patrons to book the equipment.
Okay. And the last question I had for now, the online messaging around the lending library. So I went on a couple of weeks ago and looked at our South Dundas website, which I'll pull up now just to make sure. And I just wanted to make note that I found the messaging around the lending library donations, obviously for reasons, and I would assume it's more a safety reason as far as accepting things, but the messaging around there for a new resident was really negative. So how did we put it? Let's see if I can find it. So lending library. So I'm hoping, because I'd like to see more of an uptake with this lending library. I do think it's a great thing to have. Whenever we talk about donating, because I'm sure you probably get some calls where somebody says, my kid has outgrown the kayak, I'll just, can I drop it off or whatever? Yeah, so whenever we put, unfortunately, the library will not be accepting used equipment, the main concern that the library would become a dumping ground for unwanted old equipment. So I just, when I read that, I was around something so positive as a service that we're having for our residents. I think if somebody is excited about the potential of dropping off an old kayak or something, looking at it as a dumping ground just kind of makes it, it's just negative when it doesn't need to be. So, yeah, so those were my comments off the top there.
Councillor Lewis?
I think the Lending Library is a fantastic thing, but I do have some questions on some of the items that we have in storage. And I just need a clarification on them. And bubbles was one of them. But my second one is ball hockey medals. Why do we have ball hockey medals in the Lending Library?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, that inventory includes multiple items that are in the lending library or workshop area. One of the pieces of equipment, I guess you could say, that were donated to us at one point in time prior to my term in this position were hockey jerseys as well as medals for ball hockey and so on. So those were included in the inventory as we're currently holding them in our workshop.
And is that the same for the hockey pucks? We have 251 in inventory.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, the hockey pucks are collected at the end of each hockey season. We have an abundance of hockey pucks. We do have recreation groups that ask to borrow pucks during their games or practices, and we do allow them to use those pucks.
Okay, when I was reading the inventory, some of that stuff just seemed to be a little weird that's there. But, okay, no, that's all the questions I had on that.
Councillor Mellon?
No, I mean, some of my questions, I guess, have already been answered. You know, I think it's important, as Deputy Mayor Gardner said, to track these things, you know, in no sense us having items that very rarely get rented out or leased out or lent out, I guess is a better word. You know, and concentrate on the items, you know, I can see, you know, paddle boards and kayaks and stuff, you know, and quite a few things in here that could be utilized quite a bit. You know, as far as these medals go, maybe we should be donating them to somebody, you know, find you know, I don't know what's on them, but, you know, I was approached a few weeks ago, you know, that one organization had a lot of trophies that they didn't know what to do with. Wanted to know if we want them. I said, no. I said, you know, maybe contact soccer or somebody, you know, and they can repurpose some of these trophies they had. And I think that's what we could do with, you know, a few of these things. I guess the one question, and I've never looked on the website, and I should have, Deputy Mayor Gardner has, when we lend these things out, is there a deposit or security? You know, because if we're renting out a kayak or a mountain bike, you know, hate to see it not come back. You know, do we have a deposit? Like, I mean, if I went to lease something or rent something, I would have to give a deposit, so if I don't come back, it comes off my visa. Do we have that in place?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, we currently don't have anything of that nature in place. All the equipment is rented for free. However, in recent research with other municipalities and their lending libraries, staff did notice that they do a deposit specifically for any incident of that nature. And if council wishes, that's definitely something that staff can look into and implement moving forward.
I would highly recommend that because, you know, you know, some of things like, you know, pucks or something like that, but I maybe even go at a dollar value, anything over, you know, a retail value of, I don't know, whatever you want to throw on it, 25, 50 bucks, or, you know, I'm sure a mountain bike or these stand-up paddle boards and having, you know, cross-country skis, you know, no sense us losing these items or, you know, a damage deposit or, you know, a non-returnable, you know, I think that needs to be in there. And if, you know, if anybody's gonna balk at that, well then, you know, leave their visa. I mean, the same as anything. You know, I think that's the one thing we need to, I think would have to be in this, should be put in this policy. And the other thing is, like Deputy Mayor Gardner said, track these things and maybe not renew some of these, like T-shirts. We have 35 T-shirts. Why? You know, you know, and there's sort of things like that, you know, and if you have a use for these T-shirts, give them out to some youth organization that maybe could repurpose them, you know. No sense us having inventory that we'll never use. So I think that's all I have, Mayor Byvells.
Okay, Council Wells.
Thank you, Mayor. A lot of stuff's been answered for me. The inventory thing, I think, like Shannon said about after we have our registering online, we'll be able to justify, like Councilor Mellon was saying about all the inventory and stuff, and everyone's mentioned that. I think after a year of people borrowing stuff and whatever, we'll see what we have to keep. And I'm sure that inventory list, not saying we got to get rid of it, but it'd be items that we won't go ahead and purchase if one gets lost or something. The only other thing, Austin, about, I see we lent out life jackets. Now, is there, and I'm not sure, but I think there is, do we check, like, see when the life jackets are no longer, like, they're expired? Like, do we keep track of that to make sure they're up to date? Because I'm pretty sure it's just like any other big fire equipment or something. There's a lifespan on it. So, like, I hate to see someone borrow a life jacket and the flotation's not up to whatever, but I just noticed the life jacket, so I wasn't sure how you went about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So through you, Mr. Mayor, at the beginning of each water, I guess you could say water season or summer months, staff do go through the inventory again and make sure anything that's either expired or past its life expectancy is is disposed of properly.
Okay. And just one more, like Councillor Mellon's about the deposit, which I agree with, but in this situation, people that are coming, a lot of the people are coming to borrow all this stuff from the library. I'm not seeing all of them, but a lot of them, the reason they're borrowing it is because they can't afford to go and buy their own kayak or something like that. So I don't know if they would have a credit card or or any means of putting a deposit down. So it might eliminate people from using the library if we ask for a deposit. Even though like a mountain bike, $600-700 if someone doesn't bring it back. But I think over, Austin, since you've been here, has there been anything that hasn't been returned?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, no, there hasn't been anything that hasn't come back. Patrons are typically really good with bringing it back on the exact day and time that they imply they're gonna bring it back on.
Yeah. So like I said, for the deposit, which is a good thing in some ways, but then another way it might stop people that don't have the means of putting a deposit down to access the stuff from the lending library. Other than that, I just had a few things about all the inventory, the different selections, but I can see how things can accumulate over time, and it gets put down in that room and it's part of the inventory. So I just, as we move forward, I'm sure this online registering will really help to see exactly what we should emphasize in keeping in our lending library moving forward. So that's it for me, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, Austin, I was writing down some points as I went along as council members brought it up because I didn't really have anything, but I think some good points came along. Better inventory control once you get your system up is going to be the key. I think you're going to find after a year you're going to have stuff that gets lent a lot, and then you may consider having more. You get stuff that barely, well, gets rented in a normal parameter, and then you have enough inventory, and then you're going to have a bunch of stuff that doesn't get rented at all or lent out at all. And then a decision should be made because inventory it takes up space, not so much costing money. It does cost money, but I mean, if it's already there, it's there. But I mean, it's all that space. I imagine it takes up a lot. I do believe that maybe, I know you have a system Monday to Friday. I'm a bit challenged. I'm old school. Weekends, time doesn't stop at 4:30 Friday and doesn't restart at 8:30 Monday morning, especially in the summer. That's when people need to have that kind of stuff around, and maybe there are times we still have staff working here, especially in the winter, that could be able to make weekends work. So I wouldn't dismiss the weekends if we can make them work. Better marketing, I think that's something that, people have to know it's there. Those who know it's there, but there's a lot that probably don't. Old equipment needs to be dealt with, no sense of, having it sitting around. I kind of agree with Councillor Mellon on deposit, mainly on the high-priced items. I know there's a kayak sitting in the garage most of the time at our place, and we got it at a deal at a Rito auctions, and it still costs us $200 and some, and that was half price. So they're not cheap, and if they walk away, it's a challenge. So if it's especially somebody that's not from South Dundas, that's probably your biggest challenge. The ones people live in South Dundas, we can always find them. It's just that you want to make sure you balance it out. The cheaper stuff, no, but we can watch it. But one walks away, then I guess then you need to come up with a theory on how to make it work. And as I said before, a good house cleaning of the old equipment wouldn't be a bad idea. There's a bunch of stuff there, and I understand you got to have a good list of what you need, but as we go through this year, inventory control, I was trained in the old card system of inventory control that, you know, if you didn't use it once or twice, then why do you have it around? And, you know, if I go and buy a piece of, go look online for a part at my local dealership and they have it in stock, obviously someone's used it in the last year, and that's the only reason you keep stuff around. So certainly with the new booking system, you use it right. Don't ignore it. Just make sure that that part of that inventory control is key on how to do things and going forward. And, you know, if there's items that get, you know, leased out, or I wouldn't say leased out, but, you know, borrowed more often, then we may have to come up with more money on those items. And that's where, you know, inventory control will tell you a year from now, well, you know, every weekend we were short a kayak, maybe we'll buy one more, and then you know, see how things go. Or you know, if the mountain bike trails take off here, then people will want to try that. That's how we get to where we want to get to. Of course, I certainly want to say you want 10 mountain bikes sitting here in inventory, because in the end, I don't mind lending stuff out to people who really need to lend, you know, can't afford the toys that they need to want to use. But if you get into a sport, lending stuff is not really what you want to do. You want to go and buy your own equipment if you can afford it. So, and we're not going to judge if they can afford it. They're going to have to figure that out themselves. But, you know, that's just fairness in the end. So, my points. Anything further, Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, a couple of things. Is good discussion. So, Austin, has there been any thought of putting the items that we have in inventory, like kayaks and stuff, and making it part of our programming? So on a Tuesday night in the summer, we could do an introduction to kayaking or something like that. I mean, the benefit of us having this library is we have the equipment that normally other municipalities don't have. So I'm just wondering if there's any thought on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So through you, Mr. Mayor, we do use some of the equipment for camps and stuff as of right now. The thought of using some of the kayaks or canoes or even mountain bikes for programming down the road is definitely something staff are looking into, specifically with the new recreation trail that volunteers have created on Allison Avenue. So that's definitely something we can look into moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I would, because we've talked about the investment, and I'm not so much for the deposit. I think that a library is that, and if we put a deposit, then it becomes something other than a library until there's a major issue where we have to. But people do like to try things out before they buy, potentially, and I think that programming could be something that would really do something great. The inventory list that you presented to us, is this true? Like, if I go into the lending library to look at what I can rent or borrow, is all this stuff in there? Okay.
Yes.
So I would suggest you clean it up, because I mean, we had a lot of fun with the bubbles and all that stuff, but in reality, if I'm sitting at home and I'm looking at that going, what? I'm not going to have Austin on the screen to tell me what it's about. So maybe clean it up a little bit so it looks a lot better, because I did have questions about the ball hockey medals, and we can't very much use the term dumping ground if we're using it as our own dumping ground. So I would suggest, and it may be some thought too, if people do want to, like, is there a reason why we can't accept a donated kayak?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, there's no specific reason. It's just more or less we do get inquiries about people not wanting their old or damaged equipment, and they'll ask if we'll take it. If it's damaged, obviously we're not going to take it, because we wouldn't rent it out to someone.
Yeah.
If it's damaged.
I understand that, but I hate blanket statements where we just don't even try. So obviously you don't want someone's knocked up, ball hockey equipment or something like that, but a canoe or a kayak, those are, if they're well taken care of and upon inspection, it's something that we could put into our library. Why would we not do that? That seems a little bit going against the whole point. which would be to have more. So I just be wary of those blanket statements that we just don't do it because we might be a dumping ground. You know, if you know, you can put some language around it that just saying if you feel that you have a high piece, you know, a great condition sports equipment that you'd like to donate, call for, you know, we'll evaluate or whatever. So I don't, because to the mayor's point, I've got kayaks sitting in my garage, and I'm not saying I donate them, but they would be in great condition to donate if I decided to do that, and it would be a shame to, you know, turn down 2 kayaks. Not saying I'm donating, just saying if I wanted to. So, okay, thank you.
No, I just think that we have to clean the inventory list up. There's stuff there that I don't think should be there. Hopefully we can donate it to somebody, or because I don't really want to see it going to the dump, so we can donate it to a group or whatever. That'd be much better. But I just feel there's stuff there that we don't have to have there. Thanks, Austin.
Councilor Mellon?
I agree with what you mentioned, Mayor Byvelds, about maybe possibly if it's logistically possible for a staff member to be able to field calls on Saturday morning, or be able to rent something out Saturday morning in case, you know, if we'd have to, you know, have a contact number for, you know, somebody for doing that. I still think we should have deposits on some of the higher end stuff like hockey goalie equipment. It's been a while since I bought hockey goalie equipment, but I don't know what kind of condition or what, you know, what it's like, but you know, kayaks and mountain bikes, and you know, I can't see us losing out on or discouraging people from not wanting to lend or, you know, borrow something. All we're asking is, you know, some kind of deposit if it's wrecked or doesn't come back. Like was mentioned, that, you know, if they're outside of the municipality and, you know, we never see it again, and I would put a, you know, a dollar value, anything over, you know, that's debatable how high you want to go, 25, 50 bucks or something, you know. You know, because I hate to see us lose, you know, 2 or 3 mountain bikes in a year, or kayaks end up in the Cornwall Dam, or, you know, that's all I'm saying, you know, because we have to replace this, you know, and then that's coming out of, you know, recreation, you know, budget, and it limits the availability of these items if they go missing early in the year. So that's, I still think we need to have a deposit on there for a dollar amount, anything over a dollar amount. That's my opinion.
Okay. Councilor Wells, anything further?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I agree with Deputy Mayor about like people donating stuff, and I think where we should start with that is on our website about just rewording about what's there. And I guess, Austin, each donation would be on every item. Like, it would come to you, and if it looks in good shape, like Deputy Mayor, I hate to turn down a $700 canoe just because it was used a couple times. So I would definitely go that route. Like, just reword our website to say donations are welcome based on what they look like, I guess, or the condition of the donation. And again, like the way I'm seeing it with this deposit, which I don't think we should. I don't know, Mayor, like, how are we gonna, should we put it to vote or something to see if we're gonna have this, or how do we go about that? 'Cause we're kinda,
We can go around. What's your opinion right now? Yes or no?
mine is no, Mayor.
Okay. Councilor Mellon's yes.
No.
Yes.
Oh, great. Sounds like it's me going to make that decision. Well, I'm leaning to yes on the high-priced items, but we need to know if that's worth doing. So I think Austin, you know, I've got wrote down that he needs to bring key information report back to council during council meeting, and we can go through what he has heard from council, put his thoughts to it, and then see if we can make everything work. And if there might be yeses and nos to that, because it's hard to put that information down. But you know, if I like it explored for the high-priced items, and then maybe council can see if they make the right decision, yes or no. And I'm talking not $25 items. I'm talking the canoes and the mountain bikes and that kind of stuff. Anything less than $100, I'm not worried about. I'm worried, but I'm not concerned about it. But you know, it's, you know, lending out a canoe or a kayak or a mountain bike, high-priced items, and I'm not sure how to do it, but I'll leave it back and see what Austin brings back, see what we can make work. I think you have to look at it. Got to explore it. I don't think we should dismiss it outright on the expensive items. My opinion. Anything else, Councilor Wells?
No.
Okay. So the only other thing I like to add is on the gently used equipment, if someone wants to donate it. You can bring back in that report on what kind of items you'd want. You wouldn't want, you know, the old hockey mitt that's been sitting in the corner, or the baseball glove, or, you know, but a decent, somebody who's got a gently used kayak or canoe or mountain bike or almost anything. If it's half decent, come up with some parameters where you can say yes or no. You know, it basically, you know, it's got to be a 7+ to make it into our inventory, because you don't want junk. And people have to understand that we're not the dumping ground, and we're not Goodwill, and we're not going to take it because we're not getting rid of somebody else. There's Kijiji is where you need to get rid of that stuff. But we have to look at the liability stuff. We got to make sure it works within the inventory. And I don't think she should say totally no to it, that's for sure. Anything further in this item? Anything further, Austin, from your point of view? Any questions?
No, sir.
Okay, then we'll move on. Thank you. Next one is the 2022 Community Guide rollout. So who's going to lead this? There's 2 names on it.
Kaylin.
I will, Mr.
Kaylin, I
Mayor.
think.
Galen, you leading this? Go ahead then. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Good morning. So this is coming back to Council after discussions during the budget meetings, just to give a bit of a review of our plan for the community guides for 2022. As mentioned in the report, we haven't done a guide since March of 2020. This was due to the pandemic. We didn't feel that it would be financially responsible to do a guide when we didn't have programs running. And even when things did open up, we kept kind of closing and opening, and information changed almost weekly. So we were at a stage where the Recreation Department and myself have had a number of meetings, and we've decided that we're ready to get going with a guide again. After a lot of review of the guides that we've done in the past, we are going to try a bit of a different route. So as it sort of outlines in the report, we'd like to do a more condensed version of the guide that focuses more on parks and recreation. We do have the new website that handles municipal information, and we were sort of just recycling municipal information when we sent it out in the guide previously. This was just sort of a waste of space, at least. So that's sort of what the staff perspective is. And I know that council has mentioned before that they've found guides in recycle bins and of the post office and that kind of thing. So we're hoping by condensing the guide and compacting the information to be more specific to what the rec programs are, that we'll have a little bit more success. It is a bit of a test year because we don't totally know what's going to happen, but we do feel that there is still value in producing a guide, just on a much smaller scale. But by doing that, we're also looking at going from 2 guides a year to 3. This will coincide with our recreation coordinator's programming schedule. So she's sort of blocked out the year into 3 sections. And so we'll do a guide that leads up to those sections so that we can get registrations done. Yeah, everything else is in the report. It talks about sort of the more condensed pages that we'd like to do. We're not going to be putting in times of programming or anything like that, because we do have seen in the past that times have changed because of instructor availability or something like that. And then we have misinformation in the guide. So we're going to overhaul things so that we're not doing that. But we do still feel like it is a valuable resource, at least for this year, to see how it goes and try it out. And it also coincides with, I know council has talked about over the last year a few times about how we want to be able to reach people through a lot of different channels. And we have our website, which is great, but we still have a significant population that is not tech savvy or going online. And so this sort of allows us to reach those people at a hopefully lesser cost than we were doing previously. Anyway, if there's any questions, happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, a couple of questions. Kaylin, I do like this approach. It's the multifaceted approach. While paper doesn't really do much for me in this situation, I can definitely see where it's nice to connect with everybody. So it's an inclusive process. My issue right now, though, is we're going from 2 to 3, and we haven't had a robust presentation about what the programming plan is moving forward. So I have some concerns about the level of content, if we are changing, if we are getting more robust in our programming, if we are doing different programming for different demographics. And it's not really a question, I don't think, for you particularly, Kaylin, but I am somewhat cautious in agreeing to 3 programs whenever, what's to say that one of those isn't going to have 1 page in it. So I think for my comfort level, we have somebody who's been working on the programming and stuff like that, and for me, I'd like to see a presentation on what that's going to look like, because if it's same old, I have an issue with the three separate. Even though they're smaller, I think that if we're going to do that and we're going to be robust, then the programming has to match that. And I haven't really been told that it does. So that's my main concern, Mayor Byvelds, is just, I think, cart before the horse, if you will. So.
Okay. Councilor Lewis?
I have to agree with Deputy Mayor Gardner on this. I don't want to throw it away, but I don't want to waste good money neither. So I feel the same way the Deputy Mayor feels. Thank you.
Councilor Mellon?
Yeah, I can somewhat agree with that. Like, I mean, whether we need to have it done 3 times a year. On the budget implications, the printing, that's the total for 3 mailouts. Like, I mean, if we're gonna, like, Canada Post is gonna be 930. Is that for the total 3 or per mailout?
So let me just pull that up here. Through you, Mr. Mayor, the prices of printing in Canada Post are per mailing, and then there's the total for all 3 at the bottom. So it's...
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I'd much sooner just go, instead of what were we talking here, 6-page or whatever. If we can't get it in 6 pages, but I think we can. But I would sort of stick with the 2 for now, and as Deputy Mayor Gardner has, spoke to, if our programming, if there's, see what the programming is going to be offered. If there's a lot of different programming that we're planning on offering or something. And also in here, I seen that there was not going to have any dates on some of the programming that we're going to be offering, and I sort of disagree with that. I mean, if somebody's going to, want to sign up for, I don't know, exercise class or something, they may like to know what the dates are. If they don't see the dates, and if something comes up with, COVID, of course, and stuff, I mean, we've been working around that for the last year or whatever. So I still think we need to put the dates in there when we're going to be offering these programs, you know, throughout the year. And I'm sort of apprehensive about whether we need it to be done 3 times a year or 2, the mail out. I know my wife has mentioned that there was one lady in her exercise class that would like to have it be able to, you know, register for online because, you know, work commitments maybe can't get, you know, somebody can't get to the office for 4:30 or whatever to, you know, hand the thing in or whatever. So I like the idea, doing this online and being able to do this online, and I think that's the way we need to go. It's just whether we need to do 3, if there's going to be that much more benefit to do 3, and I do think we need to have the dates in there when these programs are going to be offered throughout the year. That's all, Mayor Biles.
Phelan?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if I just can respond. I do want to clarify so that we're on the same page when it comes to the dates. We would be putting like an April to June. I don't actually know what the dates would be. That would be Melissa, but we would put sort of a generalized date so that they know what the session is. And we may even put something like the actual day. The problem that we've had in the past is that we've put, say, I don't know, kickboxing from 7:30 to 8:30 and it needs to change the time. Or perhaps we are going to start it on such and such a week and it ends up being pushed by a week. So that's where we don't want to get too specific. We're still going to put information so that they know sort of what they're looking at. And then we want to direct traffic to the website because we are getting the online registration system. And so they're going to have to go online anyway. So what we want the guide to do is be more of a door to a pathway to get to the information that is more specific online. So I just want to clarify that there is going to be some information about the schedule. It's just not going to be super specific because we've had those problems in the past that we've heard from people that are a challenge because they read that the date or the time is on whatever it says in the guide, and then we're changing that because we have some kind of issue with an instructor availability or an overlap at a building or something like that. So we just want to avoid that specific issue.
Yeah, that's workable, I guess. I mean, you maybe don't want to get nailed down on a specific date, but I think we should know ahead of time because the instructors are going to have to know ahead of time, and you know, if we got holidays or like Monday night this week, of course, being a holiday, they couldn't do it in our facility. So, we need to make sure that people know approximately when these dates are going to be. If you're going to be offering this from, January to March or whatever, or, and I think the time too, because some people may be able to say, well, I can't make it for a 6 o'clock exercise class or judo class or whatever we're offering, but I mean, okay, yeah. I don't know. I'm not really clarifying myself too well, am I? But I think we need to have,
Going in the weeds a bit, Council Mellon, how's that?
Hey?
You're going into the weeds a
Yeah,
bit.
weeds,
How's
yeah,
that?
right down to the bottom of the cattails. But anyways, I still think we need dates, and I really much sooner have the dates in there and the times. Then if we have to change it, we can change it on the go. Like, the instructors can, which they do now, email or notify, the people and say, we're not doing it live at Dixon's, we're going to be doing it virtual or whatever. They do that now. So, or it's not going to happen on Tuesday night or Wednesday night or whatever. But I still like to see the dates in there.
Okay. Councilor Wells?
Thank you, Mayor. I agree about maybe not having as many go out, but when I'm hearing around the table, as far as I agree with you, Kaylin, about the dates. It's hard. I don't know how you guys approach your programming. Whether you, I'm thinking prior to putting out this brochure that you're talking to all the instructors and getting dates from them, which could change based on anything. So to a date like a couple months, I think is a good way to approach it. The other question I had, like you were saying, to clarify it for me, when we send out these brochures, so even, and basically all the programming is going to be online, right? Every activity will be online. So this is basically targeting like seniors that don't have computers and stuff like that. But then you were saying, even if they want to, you were saying they have to go online to register it anyways. So we're kind of contradicting ourselves there. Like, can a senior, if my mom wants to do yoga or whatever, can she just phone the municipality and book it?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I will hand that over to Austin, but I do believe that when we did our training for Perfect Mind, there is a way that they can call us and we can register for them, but I'll let Austin answer.
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Mayor, if people wish to sign up for a class and they don't have access to a computer or don't even wish not to use a computer, they are able to call the office and staff are able to sign them up on our computers.
Okay. No, that's just because Galen was saying they got to go online. So if they got to go online, there's no sense even sending out brochures because you got to go online, right? Yeah, other than that, I think it's good. I like the brochures. Downsize it to is just dealing with rec. Very good idea. I do agree with my colleagues about, I think 3 times is probably too much. Based on like activities, I'm assuming most activities are like winter activities in summer. Like I'm not sure if there's activities for 4 seasons of the year, maybe there is. But I would lean to doing like 2 brochures and see how it goes. Thank you.
Okay, so one thing I did pick up from council is that perhaps what we need is Melissa to come in and give us a programming presentation on what her plans of what, between her and Austin, and what kind of recreation program we're going to have available for residents of South Dundas. Because there's nothing worse than councilor getting a phone call and saying what's going on and we don't know what's going on. So I'm not sure if we have enough time in one of our COTWs coming up, but that may be a good place to go to add it in. On the brochure itself, I think it's a decent idea. It saves, no sense in wasting paper. 2 times a year, if you can do it, is probably enough. I think 3 is, unless you got, I guess I'm a show me kind of guy. If you need 3, then fair enough, but if it can be done in 2, that would be my leaning. The one thing that we always get asked for, I'm sure at the front, is the garbage schedule and the recycling schedule. That's been out, and we have to recognize that that's been out too. So that's something we have to do every year, whether we like it or not. So, but this is not part of this. It was, but it's not anymore. So that's generally my comments. It comes to the specific dates and times. You go with what you've got for the most part. If you got to change it on the fly, it's not the end of the world. You got 2 times to do it, or 1 more time to do it. But most of the classes haven't changed time since they've started. So we look like we're going into quote unquote a new normal. We'll see how the new normal works out. If it works out well, then, and especially during the summer, and outdoors is always available, and if program coordinators and instructors want to do that, it's always an option. So those are my comments. Anything further from any member of council?
No, well, yes, actually.
Go ahead.
I'm, just to be clear, if the programming backs the idea of 3 brochures, then I would be okay with that. But I reaffirm the fact that I hate checking off a box whenever we don't even know what the programming will look like. I'm hoping there's some changes and some additions to it, because I do feel it was fairly flat as far as hitting all different demographics. But yeah, that's just, like I said, cart before the horse. I'd like to see what we're actually planning to do before we make plans on how we're going to roll it out.
Council Lewis, Council Mellon? No. Council Wells? Okay, the only comment I would make, Kalen, is if it's possible to send us a rough draft, at least then we'll know what's coming out. And if there's any major concerns, we're not going to pick it apart. I know we have to allow staff, this is our direction. If there's some major concerns, we can deal with it. If not, then you've heard our comments. Anything further from Kalen or Austin on that?
Yes, sir. Just to the deputy mayor's point, we have been working to kind of revamp our programming and what we're offering. I know Melissa's been working very hard on developing programming for annual programming for patrons of all ages and abilities, and we can definitely bring something back to council to outline that, and so council is all aware of what our plans are. As far as the 3 brochures, as Kalen mentioned, the 3 brochures would typically coincide with the 3 different sessions. I know we kind of already covered that. And then as far as the brochures go, we found with our rec master plan that the mail outs, that's when our survey numbers really jumped. So we felt that the brochures for the programming would help boost our registration numbers before each session.
Okay. Well, it's a good point. That gives us an idea of the reasons why, so. Okay, anything else? See none, thank you very much. Council's still good. We'll go on to overview of the complaints process system. Okay,
Okay.
go ahead, Leslie.
Thank you.
I think this is yours, yeah.
Yes, it is. So, by way of background, as you'll recall, last April, Council had received, I think it was by way of a consent report, a summary of some complaint information, and there was some questions and concerns raised at that time with respect to detail, education on how our complaints are handled. So I went back and watched all those meetings and went through the complaint system. Tia gave me a really in-depth overview, and as Nicole had alluded to at that meeting, it is a very robust system that you have, which is really great, but it's really not good for anyone if our elected officials don't understand and have the confidence that the complaints are being handled in a timely and efficient manner. So this report kind of summarizes the complaint process. I've provided some screenshots of what the intake form looks like if we receive a phone call. The policy does explain that complaints should be in writing. However, we do have to be practical. People will pick up the phone and call us if, say, their garbage isn't collected. And I think we need to apply common sense when handling complaints. If someone's, on the road and calling in and don't have access to a computer, we need to be realistic and take their call and complaint. And then also the report kind of outlines some improvements going forward, and I provided a sample report for your consideration that we would propose to present to you on a monthly basis. So the improvements going forward, I think we have launched the new website last fall. So the company that provides the software system for our complaint system has prepared a form for us to upload on the website. South Stormont currently uses it, so I've provided 2 examples in the attachments. If someone was to make a complaint online, they would automatically receive an email with the case number. In addition, what we would be proposing is that if someone does make a phone call complaint, they would be provided a verbal case number and followed up by email address if they do provide us with one. Not everyone does have email. And then again, as I alluded to, the reporting with no confidential information provided, but I think it's provides enough information based on what I've taken from the April meeting, is that the case number, the date, a summary from the department, and then some notes and whether they're closed, outstanding, so council can expect when it would be addressed. So I think I'll leave it there, Mr. Mayor, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Gardner.
Yeah, this is one of my, which I'm sure you.
I did see that.
You
yeah.
saw. Okay, so absolutely thrilled with the follow-up number, having a case number assigned to it. I think that's fabulous. I do like the more meat in this now, so that is an excellent thing moving forward. And I did see the sample kind of response generic email, which I love for consistency purposes as well. I think it's important that everybody gets the same message. It's triaged the same way. So this is all very good stuff. So my next question is, when we look at some of the stuff, and this is what I was getting at. I know whenever I raised this, people were balking and saying, oh my goodness, council's going to micromanage everything, and that's not the case. That's not the case at all. What I see here though is when we have a thread of fairly similar complaints, has staff discussed if there will be a trigger mechanism in place where it's discussed at the next level? And by next level, I don't mean council, I mean staff. So if you have, say, 10 different complaints of different things, I mean, I see garbage is mentioned. What is the trigger point where we actually then identify, wait a minute, this is not a one-off complaint, this is something that requires further conversation. So in the garbage case, and I know the CAO has had lots of conversations with our provider, but when are things going to get triggered to the point where we then take that information and have a broader look more globally at what some of the implications are? And in some cases you can. It may go to understaffing. It may go to, there's numerous ways this can be used, but how are we going to address that?
No, I was thinking, what we were thinking is, I missed the point, is that not only is this a venue to educate council on the process, but we do have a lot of new staff on board, and I think there's a more fulsome education to be provided that, I could receive an email, the Director of Transportation could receive an email, and then it not be added to the system. So we have to be using it consistently, so that whether, if Jeff knows how to input it himself, if not, it can flow through the customer service representative, and then she and the administrative assistant are the primary users of the system. So I think to set up some parameters, and we have to discuss this at senior staff, but this summary should also be provided to senior staff, because if there can be some flags monitored, or, Shannon might see something that he has more information on, or Jeff, or vice versa.
Yeah.
So I think from a senior staff perspective, we can set up some parameters, and then the primary users, being Tia and Emily, can know what those triggers are to elevate it to the next level.
Absolutely. So in my experience, the best public servants are the ones that want this data to make things better. They don't look at the complaint system and say, oh, we got another complaint. No. And you know what I mean? Like, it's more like, oh, maybe there's something we missed, or maybe, so I love this. The complaint system that was presented previously with the data and stuff absolutely was, I don't even know what it was. But it also was very dismissive if our residents had concerns, right? Because they are the eyes on the ground, they see things, and yes, you do get the one-off where folks just want to do whatever they want to do. But in some cases, it's highly valuable data that can be make us the best we possibly can be. So this is great. I'm very satisfied with this. It's
Thank
what
you.
I was talking about.
And to your point, Deputy Mayor, is that it might not only assist us, but if there is a complaint, say a routine garbage complaint on a specific road, because we do track that, it might also help the contractor. It could be issues with a driver. It could be, it could have a trickle-down effect.
So my final suggestion with this is that the senior staff, when they look at it, and I'm glad that you're going to bring it to that level and look at it from a department perspective. Some of the best things is, just kind of have them calibrate, keep it recorded. Kind of it's the first couple of complaints are just like, oh, okay, interesting. You get you're up to 10 in that area, and you're kind of like, oh my goodness, we kind of have to do more of a dive, because for every one person that calls in, there's probably 25 that just won't even bother.
Or assuming someone else called.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly. So it's, you know, for the residents that take the time, call in and say, hey, you know, this has happened, I think we need to respect that process, and I think, you know, it's good intel. It's so bad when organizations just dismiss it instead of actually using it in the right way. So, no, this is great.
Councilor Lewis?
I haven't heard much out on the street on how we do our complaint department. And I'm out every day. I talk to people every day. And I very seldom hear anybody say, well, the municipality's complaint department really sucks. I don't hear that. So you must be doing something right. The only thing that I know, I get phone calls after hours on garbage pickup. And I've already had this discussion with Shannon. They call the on-call center, and the on-call center says, we don't know who to contact. So I call them, and they tell me the same. So here, what, month and a half ago, I had to bother Jeff at home because I didn't know what to do. So Jeff explained to me, so I called the guy back. I think some of the information has to go to the on-call so they know who to contact and who not to contact. But other than that, I think our complaint system works well, because as I said, nobody's ever said anything to me about how we deal with complaints. So if I don't hear it, that's a good thing. So and that's about it. I just think that we have to have our on-call, they know who to contact for garbage and so on and so forth.
Go ahead, Shannon.
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Lewis, we actually had this exact conversation yesterday, Austin and myself. So one thing we are looking at doing is setting up a meeting with on-call, because we are having some confusions on they're calling recreation for a transportation issue or whatever. So we got to do a little bit of work on that. So we're on that though, for sure.
Yeah, I know that for a fact, because whenever I was working,
Yeah.
I got a phone call that the dump was on fire. And why are you calling the guy from recreation
Yeah.
about a dump?
Yeah.
So I know exactly what you're saying,
Yeah.
but that's good.
Yep.
I tip my hat to you. Thank you.
Councilor Mellon?
No, I think it's workable, and I mean, you know, I'll be perfectly honest with you, you know, sometimes my biggest mistake is, you know, if I get a phone call, you know, I'll contact staff, and I think the process should be that, yeah, I can listen to you, but I direct it to this, so that it's tracked more, instead of me, you know, my road isn't salted, I call Jeff, or, you know, my garbage isn't picked up, I call, you know, Shannon or whoever, you know, and that's on me. I shouldn't be doing that, you know, and I can do it, but I would also, I think, you know, direct the individual to, you know, so we can track it, because otherwise, you know, it's going to get lost in bureaucracy. I do like the idea, and I look down through here, you know, of the issues that we've been dealing with over, you know, the feedback, you know, summary of status and complaints. You know, a lot of these things, you know, I didn't even know about. So, you know, you get, you know, somebody call you up and you think, oh, they're just whining about something. And then if you look down through here, and I think that report, I think is, from my own perspective, and I do agree that we cannot be micromanaging, as hard as it sometimes, you know, I'm as big a fault at that as anybody, you know, I call the staff to try and find out what's going on, but not to direct them though, but I mean, that way we have, as a council, have an idea, you know, where these complaints are going to. You know, you look down through this and, you know, and understandable bylaws, you know, we've been, you know, there's been some issues there, you know, as far as staffing goes, so you can understand some of those still outstanding items, but, you know, if you see a steady, you know, pattern, you know, then council can, you know, have that discussion with staff, and we can direct, you know, we need to put more emphasis on certain areas, or let's get this fixed up, or if it can be handled internally by staff, that's better yet. But I still think we need to know, what's going on out there, and, I'm back in north end of the municipality, I don't hear anything back there, more so than issues that happen in Morseburg or Iroquois, or, I hear about it if, the plow isn't on the road, or, but, just my little neck of the woods, I don't hear a lot of these other issues that, so other than that, I think it's good. It's just that I like the idea of getting that report. I don't know how many times council should get it in the future, 2 or 3 times a year, or whatever you're planning. What was the plan?
I had indicated monthly, but if you'd like it quarterly or I'm at,
Yeah, that way we can identify, okay, well, if we need to put more resources or direct staff to put more resources on, I don't know, if it's bylaw or whatever, property standards, that's gonna be an always ongoing thing, so, but, that way I have an idea, and I think that, council would have an idea where we're maybe coming up short, instead of letting it build up, and, and all of a sudden you get way behind, we can, maybe try and nip some of the real big issues in the bud. I think that's all I got, Mayor Bybel.
Councilor Wells?
Thank you, Mayor. Leslie, very, very excellent report. Like Deputy Mayor said, what we had before was, I don't know what we had before either. Like it definitely, we didn't have enough in this council to relate to. But this report here is, it's going to help council a lot. The monthly reports, like you were saying about, I definitely like to see that once a month. Make sure just to see them. And the comments Deputy Mayor had, I agree with her on a lot of stuff about how this is going to help senior staff. It's not so much as someone coming in, so, well, there's another complaint. Well, if there's 5 or 6, that's where senior staff have to step up. Okay, it's just, this is a repetitious thing, so we gotta look into, and like you allude to, is say garbage pickup. It could be as simple as you got a lazy driver that he knows if he goes 10 minutes earlier every morning than he did the previous day, or later or earlier, he's going to miss some garbage. So it could be it's this system will be able to pick up on, I think, more of the complaints, and we'll be able to handle them in a more fashionable, quicker way. So no, this is what we need for sure. The only other thing, I remember that meeting we were discussing property standards, which is usually the biggest one that for council. As far as micromanaging, I agree with the rest of them. We're not here to do that, but I know there's a lot of times there when fines are issued and stuff like that, where the councils, and with it's only up to council to reverse that fine. Maybe something like that will, in the system, that if when I said it back then, it maybe should come to us, because we've been asked as council to go and look at different properties and to assess them ourselves. So it's something I think staff and council still have to work together on. If it gets to the point where a fine is going to be issued out, instead of going through all the paperwork, maybe approach council, and at the end of the day, it's up to us whether they're going to pay the fine or we're going to reverse it. So it's just something that it's going to be case by case on that when it comes to property standards for sure. But other than that, your report, Leslie, everything on this, the way it's excellent. I think it's we definitely move forward here on this one. So thank you on that. That's about it for me now, Mayor.
Okay, good information here, Leslie. My comments get generated from council. The on-call thing, I think we need a thorough review of that system. There's nothing worse than somebody said, I called on call and they didn't know what to do. So It's their, I assume we pay them good dollars to do what they're supposed to do. I'm not sure where this call center is that has to redirect, but they need but they need the information from us. And I'm gonna, put it on Shannon to figure this one out. And, if someone has a complaint, they have to kind of sort through the mess. Okay, this is where it's got to go, and this is the contact. The other thing I will say about that, and right now it's a 652 number, correct? Is it possible, and something you can look into, that it redirects to this number when we're off? When there's nobody here, our number goes to it. It's no different than a lot of businesses that run right now, where if I call my fuel supplier before that person gets there, I know he's there at 6:30, but if I call in the middle of the night, it's gonna go to his call center, and then he gets the call. And if everybody phones into this, they always know this number, right? Yeah. It's the general number. And the air quality number for those in Chesterville is for sure long distance. Even Morrisburg is long distance. But you kind of make the square whole by doing, the same kind of number. Just a thought.
Yeah, no, it's
Not sure if it's logistically possible. I'm just as guilty as Councilor Mellon and anybody else on redirecting calls, and it's kind of hard when the mayor gets a call at 5 o'clock in the afternoon and he needs to fix something, and he's got a little bit more connection to the staff, and he kind of just deals with it. This system works. I like what it does. What it does provide is there more than one complaint? And that'll generate that, okay, we're seeing the same complaint in the same area, we got what's causing it, and it'll escalate into, instead of just starting at the bottom, maybe there's more complaints that more staff see and more can work with. It appears that our garbage contractor needs a good, hard talking to. I know their biggest challenge will be probably employees, because every time the garbage truck comes by, it seems like somebody new is driving it, and that's, it's the challenge of the business. But that's their business. They have to figure out that people aren't going to work for $20 an hour picking up garbage at minus 20 in South Dundas. They need to up their game, or whatever they have to do to keep that route running. And Shannon, I don't know how much role you play in this and where it lands up, but I assume it hits your desk too, because you're the one, no disrespect to you, Leslie, because you're doing well, but after a while you see a pattern, and maybe that's something. Is it a complaint problem? Is it a staff problem? Or is it an operational problem? And you get, the boss is supposed to have that sense and then figure out how they're going to deal with some of those. All complaints are important, I have to say. I know that's a challenge to say from our point of view, but everybody has a point of view, and you have to respect and listen to them. The one thing I would have a challenge with this whole system is and Shannon knows it well, is the outstanding and when it's going to get dealt with. You can't, there's complaints here from 2019 on the system. That's you figure it out and make it disappear, and they should never be left on any longer than a certain amount of time, and then time has to come to the end, and you got to figure out how you're going to fix it. You can't fix them all. Like, I see somebody complain about snow in their driveway. Well, I sympathize with Jeff's crew. You can't fix that problem. They got to put snow somewhere, and that's where we put it. Everybody's treated the same. You get snow, I get snow, everybody gets snow. You better have some way of getting rid of it. And it's just an unfortunate part of winter. I see you haven't cracked the mailbox problem yet, because there's enough on here yet, but that's just life in the snowplow world, I know that.
They've all been cleared up, Mr. Mayor. Since I print off from Leslie, those have all been eliminated. So.
Counties get the same thing. It's winter in South Dundas, winter in Canada. Anyway, I recognize you can't fix every one of these problems. But you still got to give them the explanation why you can't fix the problem. And in the end, if they keep complaining, then they can always come back to council. And sometimes that happens. and sometimes it doesn't. Like Councilor Wells mentioned a property standards issue, and we had to deal with it last year. We've got that kind of nibbled a bit because now we are the property standards committee, and if it has to come to a committee, then we as council can make that decision. But we can't deal with all this. This is why we have staff. This is why we make policies. This is why if they have issues and they need us to make a policy to make it work, then we're here for that. We appreciate everything that has to be done. Sometimes it isn't easy, but to be honest, complaints are fairly minimal at my end. For the most part, it was probably worse in the past. So I think a system like this at least addresses it. You record it, you know where it's got to go. Somebody's going to have to make sure that it doesn't get dropped off the end. And and I don't know where that is. If there's once a week you come in, you look through it, and you phone up. Okay, what do you do with this? Or it's still there. Even if it's a quick email, this is still in the system. What are we doing? What have you done? And then if it's done with, then you know. If it's not done with, what's the plan? If that all works great and refines this a bit better, then I think that's where direction I would like to see it go. As I said, I think this is great. We know what's going on. I'm not here to manage staff, but just like to see everybody make sure they get their job done, because that's what lands up back on our laps. Go ahead, Shannon.
Just to add a few points. I think this system, at least having the call ID or the ticket number, does provide council with a little bit of support as well too, because if a resident does call you, the first thing you can ask is, do you have a ticket number? If they tell you the ticket number, then at least you can follow up internally with staff. If they don't, then your first recourse is then to say, okay, call the office, get your ticket number, and then we can follow up on the complaint. One thing with this report that Leslie has done, and absolutely it's a great report, is we're going to use this now as part of our senior staff meeting. So we go through our unfinished business summary, we go through our capital unfinished business summary. This will be another piece that will be part of that discussion, that we will review it. We'll see if there's repetitive things that are in there, things that are taking too long, and that will be another thing that will go to council on a monthly basis as well too.
Okay, sounds good. Anything further from any members of council? Deputy Mayor.
Mayor, I so appreciate your comments on the outstanding and just getting things done. So if staff receiving customer training, once you know a date, you're done. I just there's so many on here that can be taken off the list. I think they don't need to be hanging around. It needs to be officially closed in the system. Can you close it? Does the ticket number get officially closed in the system when it's?
Yep.
Okay. So, I mean, you could even have a procedure in place where if it's, say it's a super complicated complaint, whatever, CAO signs off that it's been dealt with to the best of the whatever, that could be part of your closure procedure, if you will, because as to the mayor said, some of them you're not going to be able to fix, some of them just the snow melting fixes, so it needs to be cleared off. So yeah, just a more robust, because if we're not clearing off the complaints, your system's only as good as how you're dealing with them. So I see a lot that say outstanding that are could be gone. So,
Agreed.
and I really appreciated Mayor Byveld's comments on that, and the buck, so to speak, stopping with the CAO. And if you've reviewed it and you're comfortable with it, even if it's not 150% resolved, if you sign off of it, then in my mind it's done, right? Yep. So.
Good.
Councilor.
No, I think we had a very good discussion. I think this is working good. But after a snowstorm, if I get Shannon or Leslie to come and shovel the end of my driveway, I'd appreciate it.
Be there.
Sort of touching on what Shannon has said, this is a good opportunity, I think, for any of these outstanding issues, if we bring it in quarterly, and we can look at this, and then it's, if staff haven't got the resources to deal with it, and we want these things dealt with, then I think it's up to council to say, okay, we're going to have to bring in more staff, we're going to have to bring in more resources, we're going to have to give them something to get these issues dealt with in a timely manner. And I do agree, they shouldn't be on here, as Mayor Byveld said, for, give it a time frame, and, and that's something I think staff could do. The only other thing that I didn't notice in here, maybe I missed it, but I didn't see any compliments complaints and compliments, you know, we didn't get it.
We'll end that with that. Councilor Wells?
Thank you, Mayor. No, I agree with you, Mayor and Deputy Mayor, about all this outstanding. Like I said, I like to see everything on a monthly basis. Like I said, if they're closed, they're closed. So just put them in a folder somewhere or whatever, file them, and then once a month, everything comes back to us that's outstanding. Then if it keeps coming back, obviously we got to deal with it. But I think when it's all said and done, this is going to work good, and it just gives staff and all us something really good to work with. So as far as the compliments, Councillor Mount, I don't think we'll ever see a section there, but maybe the odd time.
I will say this, the compliment system works when there's less complaints and we don't hear from them. And that's basically how it goes. Every once in a while, we do get one, and that's good. We feel good about it. However, it's not an expectation from any politician to get their feathers dusted every once in a while, and I know that works both ways. Anyway, as I said, good system. Just use common sense in dealing with it. Sometimes the answer is no, and you can't fix it. But if it's fixable and you know, it's something we need to deal with, then fair enough, let's deal with it on a timely basis and drive on. Anything else more from staff? Okay, with that, we will have a break till 11:45. Okay, welcome back. So moving on, we're moving on to the Morrisburg Plaza line painting. Jeff, you want to lead us with this discussion, and then we'll see where we go. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just gonna bring it up on my computer here, Mr. Mayor, so I
Okay.
don't leave you guys all hanging in the weeds. Okay, so the Morseburg Plaza line painting. So the KIR in front of you just offered some background information on where it's been, what has been done, and where we're sitting presently as the Plaza parking lot and how it's painted right now as we speak. So the council previous to this one had decided that there was a need for change and that they kind of wanted to mimic the Iroquois parking plaza with the angled parking in front. So that's how it turned out. So you'll see I attached, it looks like an aerial photo shot, which identified west parking and east parking. So the one that says the west parking lot, or west side entrance, east side entrance, I should say, that's kind of directly in front of the, well, it is directly in front of the beer store with that angled parking. You'll see there's 2 handicap stalls and 4 angled parking stalls in front of the beer store. And then the regular parking lot on the north side of Main Street, which is the through road through the plaza, is just standard parking stalls with painted hatchings at the north end of them, with horizontal parking along Castle Road. If you switch your mapping to the west side of the entrance, you'll see there's angled parking in front of the plaza with 6 handicap stalls in total, and then the rest are just standard. I believe they're 3 meter wide or 2.9 meter wide parking stalls broken into different islands with the roadway per se along the north side of the parking lot, which runs parallel with Highway 2. So there's no parking stalls presently along that new curbing. People do like to park in the north-south direction, kind of directly in front of Value Mart along Highway 2 area, but there technically is none. They are painted hatchings. So that's how it sits right now as we speak. There was a review done in 2010. I believe Shannon can offer more context to that review. I presently was not employed by the municipality at that time, but there was options offered as different parking lot schemes or schematics. They did choose on option number 2, I guess, came out to be the best option, but was never seen through fruition. So I guess I just want to have a discussion because it is a hot topic when it comes to the painting, and I'm open to suggestions and different ideas, and whatever it may bring, it's for the betterment of the municipality. So I'm open to ideas, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so I can give council a background on the 2010 study, probably more than Shannon. That basically got instituted because we were dealing with ideas in Iroquois and then redevelopment of the plaza at that time. There was a direction to take the angled parking or parking away in front of the plazas, and that's something that this council will not do because it's not favored by anybody in the municipality. We've tried that. As much as you would say that spots in front of the plaza, the 30 that there would be really good display areas, it just doesn't turn out that well. Excuse me. So nothing really became of those studies. They were shelved and probably shelved because they just were not unacceptable. And to be honest, the options they presented were not simple and smart ones in the end, so we let it go. And that happens. You have somebody with different ideas look at it, and in the end, it's not something that works, whether it's in Morrisburg or whether it's in Iroquois or any other place in the municipality. The challenge I've had since they've changed to this is the challenge larger vehicles have going in and out of those stalls because of, it was never, I think the original concept with angled parking within the north block allowed for some narrower configurations of the lanes, because if you do angles, you don't need as wide a lane to turn it in. Those of us with, and there's lots of people with, there's 3 of us here that have large trucks that would have a hard time making those spots. And we can't, and I use 2 spots. I just park her somewhere in the middle, and because, or else your butt's hanging out in the roadway. I'm not sure why there was a bent that changed this around in the thought that people didn't know how to drive, because I still have the habit of going in the ones that you were only one way and going out the other way as we should. And I could go back to that quite easily, and that's just my opinion. You can paint directional signs on the pavement like there were before, and if you didn't think that was enough, you can always put little arrow signs in the islands. It allows for more space. I do have a question for Jeff after, before we go to council. The angle parking in front has allowed more space in a way, and from what I hear, people like it to get out. But if you're coming from the east and do the big loop back in, that's not the way an angle park is supposed to work. And that's the same in Iroquois. You're supposed to come, it's a directional thing. You're supposed to come from a one-way street and angle in and then go back out in that way. You're not supposed to come from this direction and do the what is it, the 60-degree turn to make that work. It's not 60, it's whatever it is. The directional stuff at the west end works good, except we need the paint is long gone and people are going every direction what they want there, and that's not a good thing. That's why I asked for painting this year in the plaza, because it's gone. We do have more spots there because we took out that exit I should say, which is good. So before I turn to council, I can live the way it is, but if it was me, I'd go back to what it was. It just flowed well, and I'm sure that people are smart enough in South Dundas to work that flow and make it work. From an operational point of view now, and this is back to you, Jeff, now that we have a walking path on the north side, on the north side of that parking lot, I noticed that you're now plowing all the snow into corners and then making it disappear instead of it all just piling up. And I guess we'll worry about how we should do that next year from a cost point of view. But what do you feel comfortable from an operational point of view on that? Not from an aesthetic, not from just from your department having to maintain that yard.
So, through you, Mr. Mayor, it hasn't really changed the way we do it. The only thing that does change is now there's a dollar value associated with it, because there's more removal that needs to be done. Once that multi-use pathway comes into play, then in past we were able to push the snow up over the curb on the north side and deposit it in the ditch, and it was out of sight, out of mind. Now with that multi-use pathway, hopefully coming into play for the fall of 2022, we have to make just more piles and remove them types of activity, and that's the way we've done it. So as far as plowing hasn't changed. It's just strictly there's more of a dollar value that's going to be associated if I have to hire machines to come in to remove it because my equipment is out plowing the roads on an activity. That's where we're up against right now.
Okay, and that's something you can bring to either this council in the fall or next council in the fall and see from an operational point of view, if you're if you're gonna plow those, they'd have to come within the sidewalk plan of
Yep.
plowing and stuff like that. And I see some stuff that needs to be done, I don't disagree. However, you know, there might be a bent that the path is closed during the winter and you pile snow on it, and when spring comes, you clean it up and away you go. But I'm not gonna decide that today, that's for sure. So, but if that's not an issue there, then I guess my point of view is that, you know, we can leave it the way it is, we can go back the way it was, and that's, I think, the only two options I'd look at. Because I would not sit here and recommend that we hire a consultant to figure it out for us, because we've got reams of that stuff sitting in cobwebs in Iroquois, so we don't need to go down that road. Shannon?
Just one thing I can add, I did a little bit of a search on how it came to getting changed. So actually in 2018, Jeff and myself did receive a letter from the BIA asking it for it to be changed from, they basically wanted angle parking to replace the straight parking on the north side of the plaza, as well as 6 accessible parking spaces, and then also to go convert from the angle parking to the straight parking on the north lot. So that came to council July 12th of 2018, and that was kind of how things got changed from there. So just to context for council, that's all.
Did they have any basis of why they needed to
No.
change it? They just, somebody said they
That was the
wanted to
BIA at
change
the
it,
time,
and
yeah.
nobody, and so, the one thing we don't have right now is we don't have to ask the BIA, because BIA does, in my mind, doesn't exist. It's after February, and they've been non-functional, and it's unfortunate. But if we had to phone the chair, we probably can't even get that person right now, so it's not, I don't think that's, they don't represent the plaza. I think we, as council, can make a decision if we want. As I said, we can either A, leave it the way it is, and that's okay, I'll take up 2 spots. It has, I assume there's been no collisions or anything of any significant. I'm sure there's fender benders, that's for sure, because I know of one that's happened even in the old days.
One in the angle parking back 2019 where they hit the pole, one of the poles.
Yeah, in front of the bank.
In front of the bank.
You're gonna get that
Yeah.
anyway, unless you take the parking right out.
Right.
And to be honest, from a safety point of view, that's probably the smartest thing to do. Politically, you can't do it because people like it.
Yeah.
If you go look at various plazas that we all go to in other municipalities or cities, and every one of them is a private lot versus our municipal lots. And that's a Seaway thing, and we're stuck with them. There's few that have parking in front, but the vast majority do not. I know that the train yards in Ottawa would be an example, that they do have parking stalls in front on their roadway. It's a rarity though, most of them do not.
Yeah.
So, but as I said, if you take them out, the complaint system isn't big enough to handle the complaints that will come. I'm gonna tell you that right now, and I can't see things have changed in the last 12 years. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
For this, I just know I don't like the change. I haven't liked it at all. I think things just seem really tight. I'm not talking so much about the stalls. I mean, I don't drive a big truck like the rest of council, but my SUV is fairly large, and I am able to park in front of stores. And what I'm finding is if you can grab a spot in front of the stores, I find the outlying area, like the parking lot itself, I find that really tight. I was one of the people that, you know, anytime I go to the shopping center, I always parked facing Highway 2 whenever it was there, and then would walk into the stores. It was just an easy in, out. I find right now it is quite congested, especially in front of Laura's. Like, it's very rare if I'm going to the grocery store that I actually even park anywhere near there, because it seems like there's, and I know there's more than this, but honestly it seems like there's only 6 spots to park if you want to do it in the cold or whatever. So I've adjusted to the stall angle. Didn't really understand it at the time. Not sure if we, you know, it's easy. you're able to navigate it. But I never understood the reduction of the number of stalls and like I said, being able to face, park facing Highway 2, and I've never understood that reduction. It just seems so tight in there, and I know that there's painted spots where folks shouldn't park, but everyone's parking there anyway. So I just I don't know. I almost feel like the stall parking, people have adjusted to it, so I'm not sure if it would be wise to change it. But the parking right in front of the mall, but the stalls that are in the general parking lot, I think we need to open that up more. I've never really understood confining it. And to the mayor's point, the stores that have parking lots where they actually make space for people loading, unloading, that type of thing. Hate to say it, like a Costco where they actually have a space, they're very generous with their space. That would be more efficient and welcoming to customers than getting rid of a bunch of stuff and angling it off and then just reducing it. I've never really understood what the point was, but not a parking lot expert. I just know I don't like it.
Well, to be honest, we haven't had complaints, it's just us, but, we can look at things in a different view, and that's okay. Councillor Lewis, a man who's driven that yard every day, how many times, but anyway, go ahead.
Well, me driving a 4-door, half-ton truck, I cannot park beside the islands. Because the first time I parked beside the island, I went to drive out, and I was on top of the island with my running board. I put a big dent in it. Those stalls, I hate with a passion. I like the angle parking, and the reason I like the angle parking, you can see more when you're backing out than the stall themselves. If you get a vehicle, a big SUV or a half-ton truck that's got a box on the back of it, you got to be very careful backing out of those stalls because you can't see any oncoming traffic whatsoever. Myself, I'd rather get rid of the, as I call them, the box stall and go with the angle parking because I think the angle parking's a lot safer, and we can be very thankful that we haven't had quite a few collisions in there. But to me, I'd go back to the angle parking. I think I don't know how many people in South Dundas drive truck, but when you go down through that mall, you see a lot of half-ton trucks. And as you said, Mayor, if you have one empty stall and a vehicle on each side, I don't even try to park my truck in there because I'm backing up, driving ahead, backing up. It's hard to get a half-ton truck in those stalls. So I think, myself personally, I think the angle parking is the way to go. Thank you.
Councilor Mellon,
Yeah.
you were here when the change happened, so.
Yeah, it was made before I got here, I think, the decision.
The
isn't that a
2010
cop- isn't that
was
a
it?
cop-out?
Yeah, no, you were here, so if there's something there that we're missing, then you let us know.
Oh,
But
that
if
change. Yeah.
if it's just a letter that from the BIA, then
And
I
I
still.
think that's what triggered it, like Shannon said, that's what triggered it.
I assume no one said, let's get a report done on it.
Oh, not likely. No,
Okay.
I do agree with what Deputy Mayor Gardner is saying, and I don't agree with I don't like the angle parking in the north section. I didn't like that unless we're gonna put directional errors in there and signage, people are gonna zing around through there. So as far as the east-west parking in the main lot, if you will, I don't have a problem with that. I think we need to make those stalls bigger. And they're too small right now. The example of Costco is a perfect good one. And I mean, people are coming out with their shopping carts, and you don't have to worry about getting your side of your vehicle tore off because somebody's trying to get in, So I don't know what if we went to larger stalls out there, how many we would lose, and if we still have enough complement of stalls to service them all. That would be where I would go with that. You know, some of the options in here, you know, if we're gonna make major changes to the configuration of that whole parking lot, we have islands that would have to be dealt with, and that's something, so we can make little changes now, I guess, if you will, you know, and someday down the road, when we redo that parking lot, you know, if you want to take the islands out, you know, we can take the islands out and reconfigure it or whatever to a different way, and I agree, we don't need another report. In front of the angle parking in front of the stores, I like the parking in front of the stores. I just don't like the angle parking, because unless we're going to direct the traffic all to come from the west and leave going east, you know, because people don't. I do it. I come out, I swing, I try to make the swing and go west. I'd much sooner see the straight line parking in front of the building. I would leave that there. I would just change it to straight parking instead of that angle parking, unless we're going to go down the road of directing the traffic with lines and signs and the whole bit, and make the stalls in the bigger north section of the parking lot, if you will, make them larger. And it'd be interesting to see, I know in that report, I'll have to find it again, they did, you know, and maybe, you know, somebody that's in the mall, at the busiest time, how full would that lot be? And that's what we'd have to look at, whether or not if we made those stalls bigger, you know, wider, leaving it the way it is, east-west parking, the way it is there right now, you know, will that be enough parking for the shopping center? And I guess you gotta go to the worst-case scenario, which would be when it's right full, you know, at maximum capacity, if you know, or usage, not capacity, but when it's being used the most, if we have enough stalls there. But I would like to see them stalls bigger, and I would straighten the parking up in front of the stores and get rid of that angle parking, because, you know, we have reduced the speed limit in there. Yes, it'd be a little bit, it is gonna be trickier to get out of, but no worse than, you know, somebody trying to back out and then swing to go west, because you can't, you know, that's my personal opinion. I think. Hey?
That's what we're here for.
You know, that's how I you know, and that's how I envision it. And I got a big old truck that is sort of hard to park, and if I'm coming from the east, I can't get swung on that angle parking in front of them buildings. I just, unless there's a double or triple opening there. And then I gotta, you know, so I'm not taking up two spots, I gotta go ahead and back up and get in. You know, I guess ideally, if I should drive through and then back into the spot on an angle, but you know, so that's my, you know, I think we need to make those spots on the north, the main lot, wider, taking into consideration if we have enough parking spots by making it wider to accommodate, you know, the shoppers. I think we will. And make the parking square in front of the buildings, get rid of that angle in front of the, you know, the stores along there in building one, I guess, if you will. Also, I'll make the comment that, you know, any changes, you know, we make here, I don't know if we've had any, and we're not dealing with air quality.
We're not dealing with air quality.
Okay, we're not
Okay,
gonna-
we are not dealing with air quality, not on the plate. Don't even
Okay.
have to mention it. Everybody's happy there.
They seem to be, yeah. You know, it
We
seems- I
tried to
don't know if
take,
they
we
have-
did a bunch of stuff back in the day. And they really love their angle parking there. So I'm gonna tell, they really love their angle parking.
The reason I like the square in there, and I don't know if we need to make that all handicap accessible in front of the stores. That, you know, that would go a long way. Make those stalls a little bit bigger, make them all, that's maybe an overstretch, but a good portion of them stalls, I would make 3/4 of them stalls in front of the buildings, you know, the square one, the ones I'm proposing go square, make them wheelchair accessible for people that, you know, to be able to access the store, because let's face it, you know, if you take them away from the front of the building, and people that've got to park in the north lot, and if they have accessibility issues, that's a little bit of a, you know, it's a little bit of a hike. So that's why I'm proposing, or I think in my mind, leave the stalls, square them up, and maybe make more wheelchair accessible parking along there.
Councilor Wells.
Thank you, Mayor. My thought on it, well, first thing, Jeff, a question for you, or maybe you can't answer, when we went from gained 28 parking spots from when it went from angle to box parking, is that correct?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, yeah, we gained on all those parking stalls that are north of the island, because we eliminated the north-south parkings, which would be a parallel to Highway 2, we eliminated all those, so we stretched each set of island rows out by one parking stall, is what we did.
Okay. So, my opinion,
You looked at, sorry, Councilor Wells, if you look at the two pictures, I did the math yesterday and it was less stalls. How can you're taking stalls that went right to the north and cut them all off. So there's your 4 gone, and all the ones that you now pile snow at are gone. So that's 10 there. So you're down stalls. There's no way you're up stalls going. Just look at the picture on the 27, page 27, and then compare it to your picture. Look at how many less stalls you have sitting on the north side. I did the math yesterday and I forgot to write it down, but I wasn't at 106. I was in 90s.
I didn't do any math. I just went what was on option 2 on the parking spots. But anyways.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, that's fine, Mayor. I'm good with the box parking in the main parking lot. The only thing that was suggested, I would definitely make them bigger, just to make them bigger. The angle parking, myself, unless it's first thing in the morning and I'm just doing a bank deposit or something, I'm pulling up. But other than that, with the truck my size, I don't use it. So the angle parking, I think, is good. Saves a lot easier for people to get out of. So myself, I would leave the angle parking. Box parking, I like. Another thing, going back, we were talking, Jeff, you were saying the cost of money of snow removal and stuff. And we'll see how it goes. It'll be up to the next council anyways. As far as these new sidewalks being used, I personally myself, I wouldn't even use them in the wintertime. It's a lot more work pushing snow all the way where you come in there, you can just go straight over the sidewalks. But that's, like I said, that'll be up to the new council coming in to decide that. But it's like any other sidewalk, we close them in the wintertime, we don't use them. And I think this is a perfect example where wintertime we don't need to use them. It's going to save us money. But as far as the rest of the parking lot goes, I'm good with the box parking, just bigger spots, and I'm still good with the angle parking. So we'll see where it goes from there, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So, any further comments? Because I've got questions, and I know you made point of view, but I didn't write them down, so that's what I'm going to do next on a piece of paper. So any more further comments before I question council on where we're going? Councilor Wells.
And like you said, we're just dealing with Morrisburg here. So to put things in perspective, as far as line painting go, if it's planned this spring, I I'm not much of line painting or what, or here to whatever, but I'm thinking that north parking lot, 90% of it can't be painted anyways because of the shape of the parking lot, so where the parking lot will almost have to be fixed before you can line paint it anyways, but that, it's not in the budget this year, we all know that, so that's just one thing to keep in mind before we think about actually painting.
Okay. I don't disagree with you, Councillor Wells. The north end of the parking lot is in poor shape. However, it's not a road, so my biggest challenge with that, as long as people can walk on it and know it's rough, then it's good. And I know Jeff's patching holes as much as they can, but the only way to fix that is to grind her up and repave it. So, and those dollars aren't available, and that's, we'll have someone else decide that possibly down the road. So if there's no further comments, my questions are, these are the polling questions. What do you want to do on the north side, straight or angled? What do you want to do on the front, straight or angled? And if you just want to leave it as is, that's an option too, which is the same. So, Deputy Mayor?
Okay, so on the north side of the parking lot, I'd like it straight, but wider if possible.
Okay, you're losing spots. I will caution council on that. You will lose spots because of it. So, okay.
So when you're pulling us, you're saying that.
There's 14 spots there now. You'll go
Yeah.
down to 12. Pretty well guaranteed, right?
Okay,
Okay.
it's okay.
Straight and wide, okay.
Yeah, and then the angled, I'm okay with the angled parking as it stands.
Okay, Council Lewis?
I'm angled in front of the mall, and I'm also angled in the parking lot north of the.
Okay. Council Mellon?
Could I
Yeah,
get a clarification?
sure.
Are we going to leave over at the garden, where the garden center, because we'll lose spots there in the summer when that garden center is up and running? Are we proposing to leave that as it is?
I think that could, to be honest, and I know Jeff's got an idea, but if I remember right, our new sidewalk comes in there somewhere too, but maybe we need to move it. Go ahead.
Okay, so to your question, through you, Mr. Mayor, to your question, Councillor Mellon, the new sidewalk has been dug off of Ottawa Street into right directly adjacent to where you see, it would be on the south side of where Laura puts up that outdoor garden center.
That little angle?
It was a handicap,
No.
no, it was a park, so you could pick up your groceries in that
Okay.
parking stall.
First stall.
The first stall. So it has since been removed, and the 4 pickup stalls are now in sequence to the next. So lots 2, 3, 4, and 5 are now the 4 parking pickup stalls. We closed off the exit from the Plaza onto Ottawa Street. So where we closed off now has cement curbing, which is now parking stalls. So where Laura sets up her outdoor garden center, ultimately is captured where the old exit was during that season. Because there should be 4 or 5 parking stalls there,
Because I think,
once they get painted. They're not painted yet.
when we look at, the overflow, I'm thinking, just from my experience, it's around the grocery store where, you might have congestion or, to get to your point, Mayor, I would leave the parking as it is on the west side of the building. It's straight in there along the wall, straight in front of the building, and bigger stalls out in the main lot. Yes, you're gonna lose one or, you're gonna lose a stall, but I think, but I would make it square, straight in front of the building, and leave the parking on the west side of the building over towards, that portion where the garden center would be on the west side of the grocery store. I'd leave them the way they are, just to accommodate the congestion around the grocery store, if you will. And just make it square and bigger on the north main lot. Leave it the way it is, just bigger stalls and square parking in front of the building.
It's square in front of the building on,
Yeah, it looks straight,
okay.
yeah.
Counselor Wells?
Okay, on the north parking lot, I would leave the stalls, I still like to see them a little bigger. As the Council Mellon brought up, alluded to, the west side of the mall, or Value Mart. I'm good the way it is now, and out in front of the beer store, that parking, I'm good leaving the same size and everything, and angle parking in the front. So clarification, Jeff, you were saying Laura's gonna move, is she moving the greenhouse, or whatever you wanna call it, down towards, Fifth Street now?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, no, the outdoor, or Laura's garden center is staying where it is. Where the exit was, that's been tore out, those are gonna be
Yes.
parking stalls.
Yes, okay, no, that's fine, that's fine. Another question, Mayor, is, do we charge, does Laura charge a fee for, being able to set that up?
I don't know.
Is there, no?
Do we have an agreement with Laura to set that up? And if so, is there a fee associated with it?
And insurance and stuff like that?
So she gets fair
I
squattage
believe,
off
I
our,
can follow up with staff and report back to council on that.
okay. So no, she does not pay, Counselor Wells.
Okay, so, yeah, the parking lots, that's my outlook on it, so we'll go from there.
Okay, so it looks like what we want to do and mine is angle and straight in front, so that doesn't really count. So council's direction on the north parking lot is to keep it straight but widen up the stalls. So it means you're going to lose a few stalls. And in front, we'll remain with the angle parking. Go ahead.
When we do this, can we make, because I know there's one corner where I've parked when I go to the greenhouse or whatever, the lines are still showing from before, so I kind of sit back and go, well, I guess I can park if.
In the end, you're going to have to kind of make them disappear.
Yeah.
If
So-
that's what you want to do. I think we're losing spots, but that's just life, and if that's the way, to be honest, when you look at all the spots we need for Laura's, which is the big draw on the plaza,
Yep.
there's no doubt about it, we lost stalls in the north end, and that's okay if council wants to go there, because I look at the old way and the new way, and we did lose spots. I know people are very notorious, no disrespect to anybody in this village or anybody else. They don't like walking. Like, I'm sorry, but sometimes you have to walk from and I don't expect them to walk from the drugstore to go get groceries. If that's a problem, then we need a bigger parking lot, no doubt about it. But I mean, let's work, you sometimes got to concentrate your stalls in the big centers, and to me it's like the west end and the east end of that north on the west side of Castle are the busy spots. The bank, the drugstore, and then you got Value Mart and maybe somewhat the LCBO, and the rest in Dollarama. But the rest kind of, you can see that as a daily basis. The east end, you can probably take the east end of the east end out of there, no one will miss it. But maybe we can put a new business there someday. But I mean, just keep in mind when you lose spots, to create wider spots, it may present a challenge down the road, but that's okay. But just, that's where I was coming from too. I want to make sure Laura's has enough, and people like parking in front. It seems like that's where they want to park. I just park on the side. That's literally, that's where I go. But not just because I do things. As Debbie say, not everybody does what I want to do, but as we all know, if everybody did it our way, life would be simple. Anyway.
Do we have to keep the rounded part of the, like to your point where you said you like the old parking lot? one of my issues is how we've rounded things off and we've taken away, like when you look at the old like the hash marks and stuff like that, do we have to keep that stuff in, or can we, like when you're widening the parking lot, you know how there's all these marks now? You used to be able to park here, you can't anymore because there's a,
Yeah.
well, do we have to keep that? Can we reinstate those old parking spots?
I don't know. I guess what we could do is we can give Jeff direction that we want to keep this, that's what we want to do. I guess what you're gonna have to go out there and do once spring comes is measure it out. Don't have to change anything. Measure it out and see what we land up having, and then bring it back to council and see if that all makes sense. Go ahead.
So if everybody can go to page 33 on their document, that is a true life picture of the west side of the parking lot north of the islands. If we could start at the far west side, which would be right beside Laura's Outdoor Gardening Center, there's 3 parking stalls there with the hatchings that Deputy Mayor Gardner was referring to. Are we leaving 3 stalls, or are we knocking it down to 2 stalls? So it'd be 1 and then 2 on the other side, or is it just a single and a single in just that one spot? And we're gonna go through from left to right. What's the vision there?
Are they handicap spots, those two?
No, they're not.
Okay.
It's the next row that is the handicap.
Okay, well, maybe what you do is knock it down to 2 in their handicap accessible spots.
Okay,
That makes maybe more sense. I know that the vast majority of seniors in South Dundas that have mobility issues do have handicap stickers, and they have
Yeah.
to park somewhere. I know that there are some that need the wide ones, and that's, you know, we should have some of those spots where people have to access the side to get outside with their wheelchair.
yeah. So then let's go to the next island to the right. There's 4 handicap parking stalls there, which are oversized parking stalls, and then you're into 5 regular parking stalls. So we're gonna go down to 1 and then 2 on the other side. Am I correct in saying that?
I'm gonna say that you need to maximize all the parking you can get. Do
Okay.
not take stalls away there, because it's your main anchor, and especially in the spring, because you lose all those spots where the garden center is. In
Okay.
a hurry, right?
And
And that's a
then-
big, and they also tend to use our other corner for storage,
Yeah.
so.
So then the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The next 7 cement islands going to the north, they're all 7 stalls respectively on each side.
Yeah,
So
14.
we'll optimize that and likely knock it down to 6, making them probably 3.5 meters wide, which would be 12, almost 13 feet wide. So you have all kinds of room to park a truck and open the doors without hitting somebody. So that's going to be the biggest impacted areas where each island represents 14 parking stalls. They're going to represent 12 parking stalls going from the 3rd island east. So just so for clarity. So once
So-
Go ahead.
What's the rule as far as the where people are driving around on the perimeter that is closest to Highway 2? How wide does that have to be?
that's
Like that-
that's wide enough for 2 vehicles. Like that's
Okay.
technically the driving where they should go left or east and west to
Okay.
come down into those islands.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Councilor Mellon.
I can live with, you know, the angle parking and whatnot. If I'm going by this picture that on page, whatever, you know, one Jeff just referred to, 33, from what I can get, we got 3 or 4 by Laura's right there, handicap spots, and then we got, I think, looks like about 6 on the angle parking in front of the building. I think that was a good time for us to decide whether or not that's enough in front of those buildings, enough over by Laura's Value Mart, or the grocery store. And I'm not sure if there's any other handicap spots sort of to the east side of the main lot. But, you know, we're gonna do line painting and, you know, we're gonna have to widen stalls or we're making them wheelchair accessible. As from what I can tell, there's approximately 6, I think, in front of the building on the angle parking. So now I think is the time for us to decide if that's enough for the line, you know, when we're doing line painting, you know.
I will say this, I think when Jeff comes back with a schematic of this, there are standards we need to keep up on
Yeah.
accessibility and see if we probably meet them, make sure we meet them first, and then we'll see as a council we want to exceed them.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm comfortable with what's there. I think I will give the last council credit, they at least looked at that idea, because us able-bodied people don't think that way at times, and as, you know, as some of our parents get older and all of a sudden they got the sticker and you want to make sure they have somewhere to park, then we start thinking, but we have accessibility rules or within guidelines. We also have an accessibility committee that if we wanted to reach out, we could do that. So those kind of ideas, you know, we don't have anything directly in front of Laura's, but that's why those stalls are right directly in front of the,
Yeah. Okay, as long as we're gonna, you go explore that, because I do agree, we do have a minimum we have to meet. I guess we have to meet by law. And then whether or not we should exceed that, especially on the angle parking in front of the buildings. But as long as that'll be addressed before we start doing a whole bunch of lines. you know.
yeah, I don't think the paint gun's going out tomorrow,
No.
so,
It hasn't even gone to tender yet with the counties.
yeah.
Okay,
So
but I
this will
think
be a
that'll have to be
piggyback.
addressed
Yeah.
before we put this to tender, because those stalls will have to be wider with the accessibility from what they are now up to
Yeah.
whatever width. But anyway,
Yeah. And those with Dodge trucks need bigger places too, right? So they don't put dents in them? Okay, Jeff?
I can confidently say that I have not received a phone call saying, you know, it'd be great if we put one more handicap parking stall in front. This seems to be enough. There's 6 there out of a possible 18, 19, 20, possible 24 parking stalls.
yeah.
So, and the ones in front of Laura's, I've not received correspondence from Laura saying, you know, can we throw in another one? So as far as people complaints line, I haven't personally received that.
Okay. So what we can do is, you know, we've spent enough time on it, no disrespect to council, but Jeff can go back and kind of do a schematic, see what we have now, what we lose, like the numbers, figure out how many more handicap accessible spots we should have or what we shouldn't have. You could reach out to Laura's because they have the greeters there, and I'm sure that some of them can give you a very honest opinion of what they really need up front there and if they're good with it. And some, you know, more than likely they have a good feel for the parking lot. I know there's one that does that very often that can give you an opinion for sure. No names attached to that. But anyway, but that's, you know, we haven't changed a lot, but at least we've had the discussion. That's the way I look at it. Never a bad thing to refresh. Councilor Wells, anything further?
No, Mayor, I'm good.
Okay, so we'll see what you come back with.
Can I add
please.
something,
Thank
Mayor?
you, Jeff. So next one, stamp full. Go
Sorry.
ahead.
Can I just add something just for information? So I did follow up with staff. So the Garden Center does pay $500 annual application fee as well as insurance for the
Okay,
Garden Center.
well, it's something. Okay, it's probably good bang for the buck. I'm sure of it. Okay, so next one's the Stampful Road streetlights. Jeff can lead that discussion, and then I'm sure we'll have another discussion after that.
Okay, so in front of you is the Stampville Road streetlight concern that I guess has been a lingering, who owns what, where, why, and how are we gonna fix it? On Stampville Road, there is 6 streetlights that is owned by the municipality. However, these streetlights are not representative of what a streetlight should be. A streetlight should be on the road, illuminating the road. These are residential lighting, that I guess in past councils received ownership of them. Actually, correspondence from back in 1998 saying that there's 6 lights west to east and 1 light at the Stampville Center, which is now presently owned by the municipality. So there is lights that do not work, and they need to be repaired. So this is where the discussion arises. I did go out and gain pricing through our street light contractor through recurring services on what would it take to repair them with an LED light, because they're the old bulb style. So pricing was offered through that report, costing $2,700, roughly $2,700 plus HST to do the repairs. So that's where we sit right now. Just looking for guidance from council on what we do, if we're opening up a precedent or what's happening. So just looking for guidance.
Okay, just a quick question to council, hands up, who went and seen the lights? Okay, well, you really need to see them. No disrespect to anybody, but I went yesterday, and I had been aware of this earlier. A staff member told me about this was coming up, and I scratched my head and I did a drive-by, and I found one that I had to imagine it was in the right-of-way. One, and then I thought, well, I don't see any more. So yesterday with this map, and thanks Jeff for pointing them out, I seen the ones that were there, and everyone else is on private property. Everyone else is on private property. And they are streetlights. They are, Councilor Lewis said, they are the official streetlights. They only service a small section of Stampville versus, and it's more to the west end. And no disrespect to any of those residents, but I cannot understand why there's streetlights there, and then you go to the east, more toward the old school, and there's none there, and you know, we have built up areas in a lot of places. I don't know if they pay for them. The old rule is, and I know the people in Riverside will tell you pretty hard, is that we paid for the lights. No, we, not South Dundas. The residents paid for all the lights, and then we looked after them. And if you don't believe that, you go ask somebody who had lived there before, and they'll tell you pretty fast that came out of their pockets. I'm in the opinion that we do not fix these lights, that we either give it to them, and if they don't want to take the lights on, because some is we will remove them at our cost and they're gone because they are a safety hazard. I would not leave those lights there without them signing off. The old arms some of them are pretty rough shape. But anyway, Councilor Lewis, you've seen them. That's my opinion on them.
Oh, excuse me, when this was brought to my attention, I did a little investigating on my own. I talked to some of the people that lived up there for years. At one time, these lights were maintained and billed to the people that lived on the property. And then at a council meeting, Mayor Barkley at the time, Matilda, said, well, it was, at that time we were South Dundas.
Oh, okay. So he wasn't mayor. He didn't do it when he was mayor.
No, he sat on council.
Okay.
Well,
No.
I'm not sure how
I
that
was
worked.
there when he was on
Yeah.
mayor, and I do not remember this coming across the desk, and this would be something I would,
Yeah,
I'm
well-
sure that he would have a challenge from the three councilors at the time.
It was brought up that South Dundas maintains the street lights in Princeton, Dixon's Corners, Iroquois, Morrisburg, Riverside.
Right, town.
So, in Marytown. So I don't know why the council of the day does not maintain the ones in Stanville. And that's where I left it. I think if council of the day, and if you go to page 36, you will notice that the street lighting has Stampville on it. So the council of the day, they passed that we would maintain and pay for the lights in Stampville, although there's only 7. Myself, I think that we should keep that up. So I say that we fix them and pay the bill.
Okay. Deputy Mayor.
I unfortunately did not have a chance to drive out and look at them. I'm kind of in the middle where, as the conversation started, because folks want them fixed, like they feel that it's
Vast
The
majority don't
safety-
work, right?
Yeah, I haven't driven it.
I didn't drive it at night, I'll be honest.
okay. And how long?
One
there's
that works.
And
Is
how
it,
long?
and that's the one that's probably closest to the road allowance, the quasi one.
I think it is.
Yeah, this is the old high pressure sodium, the old fat. Yeah, it's not the same as the old one. Go
So how
ahead.
long have they been out for?
Long time.
So they haven't worked for a very long time? Okay, so that's where my thought process is. If it hasn't worked, define very long time.
Go ahead, when was,
So I can probably tell you is we did the full LED replacement back 5-6 years ago.
more than that. It
Or
was
more
done
than
in
that?
my, yeah.
Yeah.
And they weren't part of our replacement, so they've got to be not working prior to that. So you're
Okay.
probably,
Well, I'd say good 8 years for sure.
Okay, so in my mind, if this was something that was in a recent occurrence, I definitely would vote to pay the $2,700 and fix them. Because there's an 8-year gap, I think they just need to be removed. To be honest with you, that's my thought process. And again, fully respect the rural residents, but if it's been eight long years, and then we go in and move them around, it doesn't. There's lots of things that have been not working for a really long time. We could have a very long list, and for it to sit, which is almost virtually over 3 councils, and not having a demand for it to fix right when they start going out, I can't really justify fixing them now.
Council Mellon?
Yeah, I'm not in favor of fixing the lights on private property. If they want the lights, I'd turn them over to them, give them the option of taking over with them on a signed agreement or whatever. They can look after the lights if they want to, that way. If not, tell them that, for a liability issue, we have to remove them, and, or you can take them over and look after them yourself. Are we then proposing to, is there any appetite to put any along that road, or we're just gonna say,
No, we haven't had a demand for lights on that road, so I'm not really looking to do that.
yeah, like, I mean,
Our usual policy is, if you want to put lights on a road, if a bunch of residents want lights, then they put up the lights and we look after them. If we go down that road,
yeah,
I can make a long list of where we're going to have to put up lights, and
Yeah.
downtown Halbert is one place.
no,
No, I'm being facetious, but Lakeshore Drive, there's enough cluster, and I've had people ask, because we have a series of lights on Lakeshore, and then they quit, and then we have a series by Loyalists, and then there's some private owners that got lights, and then they quit, and I've had, why did the lights quit? Question. I said, well, that's you want lights, you put lights up. Like, if I want a light on my corner, then I'd have to put, I don't think it's fair that the municipality pays for a
And I
light
don't
on every
know if
corner. I can
that's
see it
what-
on the 31s and 2, that was a good program, and I think we were smart on that one.
and seriously, like, I mean, let's face it, if these lights aren't working right now, they're not offering any benefit to anybody, so I mean, no, I don't think we need any lights along there. I would just say, look, if you want the lights, they'll have to have them rewired, so, because right now we're paying the electricity, so they'd have to take over the light and then rewire it so it's not coming off our line or bill or whatever. But that would be up to them. Maybe throw a bone out there, say, look, if you wanna, buy the newer light, an LED light at our at our cost, you know, you reimburse us, you know, and then you take over the light, but you have to wire it up. But that would be the only bone I would throw out there, say, you know, if you want the light, you have to sign off on the light, rewire it, and reimburse us for, if they wanted to put the newer style light up on their yard, but at our cost. You know, whatever it costs us to buy it, they would have to buy it. That would be the only thing, so, you know, I don't think it's necessary for us to have a light. At the old Stampville Center, we're talking the Stampville School, right?
Yeah, it's not there.
There's nothing there?
I drove by and I did not see a light anywhere.
Yeah, at that intersection, just the way it is, I don't know if we maybe should have a light there at that, you know, at the
Then we
triangle
can
intersection.
do every other intersection too, Councilor
Yeah.
Mellon. This.
I know, I'm,
You gotta understand, when you think of one, you gotta think of them all, and then put the, and you are pretty good at putting numbers together in a hurry and saying yes or no, so.
all right,
Parlor Road costs us how much, 5-6 grand?
Yeah, about 5,000.
Yeah.
for the lights.
The complete,
Pole and light and hook up and everything, yeah.
yeah, the permit.
Yeah, I'm not willing to put $2,700 into private lights. We got one at the farm that's, we could maybe get in on that program too.
Okay, enough of that. Question to staff, and this is gonna be a real hard one. From what I see, those lights are not part of their meter. So who's paying for the energy costs that isn't getting absorbed right now?
Something we'll have to
That'd
talk.
be Hydro One.
That'd be a Hydro One, and it's
I-
sometimes
I-
challenging to get.
I know that, I don't expect the answer today, but
Yeah.
there may a little scribble note and see if we're getting actually charged for that power. Because it's, Hydro would charge a set rate every month for that power, because they, you know, it's the multiplication and.
Yeah, they just give us a number. They give us a number of how many streetlights, so we can do a little bit of research and see
If
what
you
we
can pick
find
them out, you may not be
Yeah.
able to pick them out.
Yeah.
But anyway, depending on where council goes, you may have a little work. Councilor Wells.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with definitely not fixing lights at private property. Going by this letter here, Joan did in '98, there's 41 streetlights. So out of all those streetlights pertaining, like, say, the 18 in Princeton, or which ones are on municipal property? I'm taking all but the 7 or the 6 at Stampville are on municipal property as far as lights go in our hamlets and stuff.
Go ahead, Jeff.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, so if you look at that list, the ones that say Brinston, the 4 east to west, those are the ones that are on Gilmer Road. The 14 that are north to south, they are all the ones that are on the county road. They're on County Road 16. Dixon's, same thing. Unfortunately, in Dixon's, the 2 east to west are county roads, and the 5 north to south is County Road 16, and there's one double head at the Matilda Hall in the center of the parking lot. The Haynesville, those are the 8 lights east to west from the main intersection at County Road 1 and Haynesville Road going west. And then Stampville is the discussion that we just had. We unfortunately maintain the street lights on county roads.
Okay, which I'm not sure the policy we have with the counties, but obviously we still have to, those are more street lights than what I would call yard lights, what we're dealing with Stampville. Definitely not fix those lights, and I agree with the mayor about have them sign off, we remove them at our cost. But also we should, like, if there's no light there at Zarin Road and Stampville Road on the corner of County Road 16, there should be lights at intersections, especially on county roads. Why there isn't one there? I always thought there was, but I'm not up there all the time. But all these other lights too, we should approach the counties on them, because if all these lights weren't included in the update for LEDs and they're on county property, maybe a county should be approached and bring them up to par, whether we do it as a joint venture or have the counties do it. So my recommendation, not to fix the 6 or whatever, check into the counties as far as, and I agree with you, Mayor, we're definitely not gonna do every intersection, especially our own. But when you're coming on the county roads, whether the counties should take a look at it by recommendation of the municipality, or we approach them with something, it should be addressed. So I don't know how many, now this is a street lighting in Matilda Ward at the time before amalgamation. So I don't know how the street lights, like we don't have a report the way, like you were saying, Riverside was all bought by residents. We own property there for 25 years. No, 30 years. And I don't remember us paying for lights. Maybe we did. Maybe it was a committee back then for Riverside. I'm not sure. But I would like to know about the rest of in the Williamsburg Old Township, like Dunbar and Williamsburg and Winchester Springs on our side. What's included as far as lights and where we're at with them, not just the Matilda Ward. So that's the way I would approach it. Like, maybe it's something we should look into a little further. But again, it's up to councils. Thank you.
Okay, so I can fill you in on the county policy on lights. Counties don't do lights unless there's a warrant to put them up because of an accident issue. So if a municipality wants to put lights up on county roads, they can do so, but the counties don't pay for lights. I remember a discussion at Highland Road and 43, which is a pretty big intersection, and I think eventually they put a light up because council pushed, but most of the rest are run by municipalities. The ones on County Road 31 were put up in the old days of Williamsburg. It was a Johnny Whitaker idea to put lights on every intersection. If you drive north on 31 and you'll end up going north of Winchester Springs, you'll find out that North Dundas did not do that and have never done that. So I think that was a great benefit. I liked them on the major county roads, the old highways. They were highways at that time. And that's why Parlow in theory is up, and I'm not speaking yes or no to that, but that's where we seem to go, that if it's on the 2 and the 31, we put up lights at intersections. If they're on others, then we could do it, but we have not done it. So there's none at 0 and 16. We could put one up, but this council can make that decision, ask counties to do it, and they say knock your socks off and you go pay for it and drive on. But as a rule, we don't do it. So maybe what we need, and you've alluded to it, is a little bit of information on where we do have street lights, where we don't have street lights. Go ahead.
I can definitely send, I'm just doing some searching right now. So we actually do have our streetlights GPS as part of our LED project we did. So I actually do have maps of all 4 areas as far as they're numbered. So what is included with us and what's not. And I'm just looking, Stanfield's not part of that, of our inventory at all.
Okay, well, even sending that in, like having that key information report to council on that.
Yep.
And you can attach our light policy, because I'm pretty sure we have one. We debated about lights in Mariahtown. We said no to additional lights there for council members, right? So, I do remember, it's Greta Roberts that told me that they paid for the lights. So I'm taking her word for it. She was a long-time resident of Riverside until they moved up to Parlow Road, So from what I see of the yeses and no disrespect to you, Council Lewis, but the no's win.
No, I just,
I understand, but I think all of us looked at this as a lights on private property issue, and really doesn't make a lot of logical sense to do that. So would it be fair to instruct our for staff instructions that we'll offer to leave the lights up there if they sign off, and if they don't want to sign off, that we remove the lights and we look into wherever the power consumption was.
I think it'd be fair if we can send a letter out to them and we'll give them a certain period of time to let us know, yes, they want the lights, or B, they don't, and then we can coordinate that and get them to sign off on it or something.
Okay, and if you need, and I'll leave it up to the clerk, if she wants staff direction through a committee of the whole, if she wants to bring it to a council meeting and make it official, that's up to them, but
Okay.
right now, council direction right now without a vote is not to continue with these lights. Okay, nothing further? Okay, that's it. We've run out of our reports, so before we ask the clerk for their adjournment motion, I'd like to thank council for their work this morning. I'd like to thank all staff for their reports and work, and I'd like to thank the audience for participating in democracy in South Dundas. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Moved by Councillor Mellon, seconded by Councillor Lewis, that council now adjourn to meet again at the call of the chair at 11:59 a.m.
All heard the motion, those in favor, opposed if any, motion carries. Okay, thank you all.